Hello, welcome to Recapping with Delora
and Ashley.
Please follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at Recapping Podcast.
Also, comment, rate, and subscribe on your favorite podcast platform. We're on all the things.
We would love to hear your ratings of the movies and shows we review.
Email us your audio file to recappingpodcast@gmail.com and we will play it during the show.
Or DM us on Instagram and we will post and read it on air.
Thank you guys so much for listening.
Thank you.
Delora, how are you today, girl?
In this dimension, I'm good. I'm okay. I just hope other iterations of myself is living their best lives.
Well, hopefully you're not quite like our main character in our recap for today, where you're not also living your best life in this one, because, you know, I want you to be experiencing all the joys, all the things. Speaking of our recap for today, 11-time Oscar nominee, Everything, Everywhere, All at Once, dominated the 2023 Oscar noms that were announced last week. We have talked about this film a bit. It was on my favorite films list from 2022, and it is definitely living its best life. It was released theatrically on March 11th, 2022, runtime 2 hours and 19 minutes, and available currently to stream via Showtime. Directors are the Daniels, Daniel Kwan and Daniel Scheinert. Quick summary. When an interdimensional rupture unravels reality, an unlikely hero must channel her newfound powers to fight bizarre and bewildering dangers from the multiverse as the fate of the world hangs in the balance. Dum, dum, dum.
I literally mentally did that, by the way.
Seriously. As I mentioned during our Hot Topics and Quick Headlines episode last week, this really is creating history for the cast, particularly for Michelle Yeoh, who's nominated in the Best Actress category. We also have nods for Best Actor for Ke Huy Quan, for Stephanie Hsu, for Jamie Lee Curtis, as well as picture, director, costume design, editing, original song, original score, and original screenplay. So I don't think they're doing too shabby. Let's get into the cast. I already mentioned them by name, but let me also mention their characters. We have Michelle Yeoh as Evelyn Wong, Ke Huy Quan as Wayman Wong. You know, in the movie, it kept going back. I was like, is it their accent and it's really Raymond, or is it actually Waymond? I think I've settled on that it is actually Waymond.
Waymond.
Yes.
Yeah, Mm-hmm.
I just kept thinking, oh, I'm hearing it wrong. I'm hearing it wrong. I had to put up the subtitles.
In subtitles. That's how I live.
Yeah, for sure. Stephanie Hsu as Joy Wang, who was so delightful in this movie. I really enjoyed her.
She's a lot of fun.
Yeah, her very eccentric characters for sure. Jamie Lee Curtis, as Deirdre, amazing in this film. And James Hong as Gong Gong. Reviews, Delora,
he's
right?
93 years old.
And he's still looking phenomenal. I would have given him 70s.
So many movie and TV credits, Ashley.
I mean, I remember him from years and years ago in films that I used to watch. So I'm sure.
He just got his star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. So I'm really proud of him.
Well, congratulations, sir. Let's get into these reviews. Rotten Tomatoes, 95% critic score, 89% audience score, and 84% of Google users have given this a thumbs up. Delora, what is your grade for Everything, Everywhere, All at Once?
Girl, I don't know. It's a mind fuck.
Is this the first project that you're going to abstain from grading?
I don't know. Here's the deal. This is where my grade comes from. My grade comes from originality. Check.
Very much so.
Feast for the eyes. It took so many turns that I was literally felt like I was slapped once you got to the heart of the film. The fact that it actually had heart. Was I entertained? Yeah, I was. I was also very confused.
Especially that first watch. It takes you a while to digest and process what is reality and what is not. What is the point of all of this? Is this all in her mind? Is there really a big bad threat? Like, it definitely, that first watch, it's a lot to unravel and unpack. For sure.
And digest, for sure. I'm going to give this movie an A minus because I'm glad a movie this original is getting some recognition because it is deserved. But there are moments where I'm just like, do we only have a sense of humor of a 13-year-old boy? Like, is that where we live? Okay. But I also cried my eyes out at certain points. So
it was hella emotional in very specific ways that we'll get into. I don't want to dive in just yet. Let me give y'all my grade. So, surprise, it's an A, because I've already told y'all I love this movie. It was a top movie for me in 2022, specifically because of how weird it is. Like, I remember I went into it so cold. I think I went because one of my friends was like, Ashley, this movie, I've heard great things about it. Let's go see it. And I was like, well, I'm always down to go see a movie, whatever. And it was so mind blowing because I have not seen a movie in a while that was so otherworldly, confusing to your point, but also had like real depth and subject matter, and also such great acting and performances.
I'm glad you say that because this movie would not be what it is if it was not for the amazing actors in it. Amazing.
It took something that, had it been bad acting or bad direction or not much of a storyline, would have fallen so far into the BC. Let me turn this movie off. I cannot watch another scene. This is ridiculous category.
Yes.
So they definitely found all the things and put them together to make magic. And one thing that I love that Stephanie Hsu said in a Colbert interview, because they were literally shut down right before, like they ended right before the pandemic, like a day before. So they had to do like some last minute things, like separated. But to start the film, they had a tradition that they do in a lot of Hong Kong sets of, this pig that they cut as a crew and all these things to ensure, that the production went smoothly. And I was like, there's something to like tradition and rituals and good juju.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of reasons why this should not have worked.
Yeah. Yeah. I loved how she said she felt like it carried them throughout this whole journey. That's kind of how I feel about Hamilton. Like, you mean to tell me you're going to have a group of people of color rapping as the founding fathers of the United States of America? What? And the execution had to be flawless for it to like actually hit. So I get that. I get that.
All right, guys. Well, I know for some of our recaps, we'll do scene by scene or episode by episode, but we are going to do this one a little differently because this movie is too different to go by our standard formula. We just kind of have to talk about some of these overarching relationships, overarching themes, and let's get into it. So, Delora, let's have a little chat. Spoiler alert for anybody who has not seen the film. So first off, I mentioned that I went into this movie blind the first time I watched it. I didn't know anything about it. I didn't read anything. I didn't even know the premise. Did you still go into this a little blind, or had you already looked into the premise before you watched it?
Oh, no. The only thing that I knew going into watching this film was that there was some googly eyes and a lot of iterations of Michelle Yeoh's character. because she's screaming or something and something's happening. That's all I knew. And the fact that it was getting a lot of love during this award season, and hoping that this would be the year that she gets her Oscar.
Do you prefer to go into projects blind, or would
Absolutely.
you? Okay. Are you someone who likes to do a little bit of homework so that you have an idea?
The most that I do when it comes to homework is I do like to know what the hype is. And granted, I also like going in cold and finding, obviously, gems. We talk about our hidden gems every week, things that might not get enough hype, but you come to love. But going in cold is the best way for me, for sure.
I love going in cold to movies and TV shows these days because I've talked about this so many times. I think trailers give way too much away a lot of times. And then if you have even a brief conversation with somebody, usually they give away something that to me, I'm like, but that was critical. That was something critical.
It's so funny
that I did not want to know.
Are well aware. Like, don't say a dang thing to me, please. I don't spoil it for people. Like, you practically have to pull my teeth because I've had friends who were like, oh, just tell me. And I'm like, no, I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't want someone to do it to me. I'm not going to do it to you.
I have friends that I know in particular. I just now know that I can't talk about a project if they've seen it first. You know what I mean? Like, I just know that you are wanting to spoil this for me because you want to have someone that you can discuss this with, even though I told you multiple times I'm planning to watch it. So I just won't even engage. So was just curious. But for this film and this story, it's really about family. It really centers around Evelyn and her husband, daughter, and father. Evelyn is a stressed out laundromat owner who's dealing with the IRS and tax issues because death and taxes, right? Only two guarantees we get in this life. She gets swept up into the quote unquote multiverse in order to help save the world. Delora, when Evelyn is presented with this divergent path from her reality, she takes it even though she's confused, even though she doesn't really have that much information. How do you think you would have handled this proposition on a random weekday at the IRS?
So two things. The first, I love your witch Harry moment. I really do.
You're a princess. You're a princess.
Right. Like when the hero finds out that there are, there's something more than this provincial life.
Okay, Beauty and the Beast.
I love it. I love it. And the fact that we get a chance to experience it through a Chinese woman immigrant, you know what I mean? Like, I love that for her. So for me, yeah, no, I'm way too skeptical for that. Yeah.
I agree with you that, first of all, this was a fun scene just to watch because even though we had seen like a couple scenes before of the Wayman switch through the cameras, this is the first time we really saw Kay get to switch from being Wayman to what they dub as Alpha Wayman. And then kind of see this explanation of things and the umbrella up with the donuts, which the whole donut and bagel and circle is a running theme throughout so much of this film about kind of infinity and all of that. And so her reaction initially, I think, would be all of us like, first of all, what the fuck is going on? What happened? What just happened to my husband? My father's right here, clueless in his wheelchair, doesn't know what's happening. But I think there's something in me, Delora, and it's probably from watching all this stuff. This would be so exciting to me if this happened to me. I would be like, oh my God, this is wild. But I always knew there was some weird shit going on in the world. So let's do it. Let's get into it.
I would do it with a heavy dose of skepticism for sure.
I'm sure. I feel like she had it because she could have chosen to go into the janitor's closet and she still chose. But then as she was reading, she was like, well, let me just see. Let me go ahead and switch my shoes over to the other feet. Let me go ahead and close my eyes. And then, you know, she had already, I forgot to say, she had already gotten a glimpse, I guess you could say, in the elevator because he showed her timeline, right? So it's not like she didn't at least get a little bit of a glimpse.
That's a good point. It wasn't so cold.
Yeah, but it was still, again, hella confusing. You're an everyday person living your everyday life. And all of a sudden,
IRS building, for goodness sake.
And going through so much personally because she stressed the F out, right? They put a lien on their business. She's coming in there trying to explain and make sure they don't get shut down. So this is the last thing you're thinking about. Oh, I'm about to get proposed to go to an alternate reality. So still was interesting and fun, though. Evelyn's husband, Wayman, speaking of, has a vastly different personality from his wife. He believes life should be lived with kindness, and he's feeling neglected in his relationship and in his marriage. He's ready to serve Evelyn with divorce papers. What do you think of Wayman's character and their relationship throughout this film?
Throughout the entire film?
Yeah.
So, honestly, when we're first introduced to Wayman, I didn't think he had the balls to serve her divorce papers. I'm like, okay, wasn't expecting that from you. Can I say shout out to Alpha Wayman too? Because I'm like, she gonna fall in love with this Alpha.
And you know what's funny? I equate it to the Steve Urkel, Stefan Urkel switch.
Yes.
That's what it is. Like, oh, he got swag when he turned into Alpha Wayman, didn't he? Took the glasses off and everything. I said, oh, that's Stefan, baby.
Wait, when we were in elementary school, we used to call him Stefan.
He was too. I bet you Lil White used to love being able to switch over and let the lady see what he really had going on. But that was the best. Side note, you know, because Kay had not acted in 20 years, he had a voice coach, he had an acting coach, and he had a body language coach that helped him prep for this role, particularly for these switches that he had to do in character. I watched this interview with Michelle Yeoh and the Daniels, and she talked about how each version of Wayman, the body language coach equated to an animal to help him kind of physically prepare. And like, so regular Wayman, it was a squirrel, because regular Wayman is very, you know, cute but you know, innocent. And then it progressively got to a little bit more aggressive type of animals for Alpha Wayman, and then even for businessman Wayman that we meet in the universe where because them black frame glasses, sir.
Wait, can we say there were a lot of movie moments in this movie? What I'm trying to say is, when she walks up to that staircase looking up at black frame Wayman, it was giving Jack and Titanic for me.
That's a great reference. Yes, absolutely.
Wayman also had my absolute favorite fight scene with that freaking fanny pack.
Yes.
When old dude swing that fanny pack around his neck and back, I was like, I literally watched it 10 times.
Did you?
I kept rewinding it back because I was like, this is so fire. Like, this is amazing.
Yeah, I think the Daniel said that the fanny pack was just a great reference to that look that a lot of immigrants or folks have, you know, with the fanny pack when they're, I guess, in this country or what have you, which, I mean, I think a lot of
usually traveling tourists
in general, I think, kind of do the fanny pack thing. But can I just say, I loved every iteration of Wayman because I thought Wayman was just such a sweet person, no matter which version he was. Original Wayman especially, I was like, all you want is your wife's attention. He even said the only reason why he had the divorce papers drawn up was because a guy he knew drew them up, and the conversation about getting a divorce helped his relationship. So he really was still fighting to try to make the marriage work, even though he wanted to give her the divorce papers. He was so longing looking at that little elderly couple who kissed when they first got to the IRS center. Like he loved his wife. And then I feel like he also felt that she settled a little bit being married to him. Like, I think that he could feel, and he mentioned it at one point during the film, that he felt like she thought she should have never married him because she essentially had to choose either marry him and move on to the United States or stay, because her father said, well, if you leave, you're no longer my daughter. You're no longer my child. So that's where a lot of conflict came in, even within her character. But I loved Wayman, and I think you need that yin and yang a lot of times in relationships to make them work. And I thought he was the yin to her yang.
Yeah, but he was also so unexpected, because honestly, all the parts that I cried at in this movie was because of him.
Really?
Honestly, yes. When we were talking about the black frame Wayman, when he told her, I would just be happy if we did laundry in Texas together, if I could do it all over again. Sir, what?
That's love. That was beautiful.
I also like when guys get nervous thinking that their woman is too good for them. It keeps them on their toes.
A la Prince Harry and Meghan Markle.
Yes.
Look what I got.
And when I tell you, whew, the scene towards the end, when he really is himself, when even after she stabs him, he is still talking about, let's talk it out. There's another way of doing this. I'm this way on purpose. This is how I fight.
He was a good dude. He was a good dude.
Bawling my eyes out. I was like, yo.
I was Team Wayman, I guess, is the moral of the story. In every iteration and version, I was Team Wayman. It was a little messed up when he left her there for a minute, though, when he was like, oh, sorry, I got the wrong Evelyn. You not the right one. I gotta go. I gotta go find the real one. You can't keep up. It's like, oh, damn. I guess Alpha Wayman ain't one to play with. But let's move on to Evelyn's relationship with her daughter, Joy, because that's a very complex relationship throughout this film. It turns out that Joy is the big baddie in the movie, Jobu Tupaki in the multiverse. She is the arbiter and agent of chaos that creates the necessity of everything else that has kind of gone on and transpired to cause issues that made Alpha Wayman seek Evelyn out in the first place. But it turns out that actually, instead of wanting to kill Evelyn, Jobu's been seeking her out to help her find meaning. The alpha version of Evelyn, this is her daughter. And the alpha version of Evelyn is the first one to discover jumping through the various multiverses, verse jumping. And she saw such potential in her daughter that she pushed her too far. So that's what created Jobu, because Jobu now is living in every version of the multiverse at all times, which created this feeling of nothing mattering, because she can see all the different things, and the fact that if you die here, you're still alive here. And I mean, it stopped making sense. It stopped mattering to her, right? So she was looking for someone to join her and help her see things possibly differently. These playful, colorful, outrageous scenes with Jobu were among my favorites in this film. I mean, she beat a man with some giant dildos.
You know, that was the moment in my viewing where I was like, self, when did this movie become unserious? I was like, oh, they're not serious at all, are they?
It was so funny. Laugh out loud. That whole sequence was laugh out loud funny. Her showing up with this pet pig in a Elvis impersonator costume Her switching off, dancing a man to death. I mean, the whole thing was utterly ridiculous.
Absolutely. She was a joy to watch. And her costume changes, they were legendary.
Yes.
And fire. Like there were some of the looks where I'm like, yes, sis, yes.
I really love the framing that they did around her eyes for it was when she had the pearls around her eyes and then also diamonds around her eyes.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was fabulous.
Even when she was wearing just the golf outfit and she had the pink around her eyes, and there was another scene where she was wearing blue and she had the blue. Amazing. And my favorite look probably would have to be, it was like she was in all black and big black heels and like a puffer type outer coat thing. Fire. So her relationship with her mom, I just think it's interesting that they decided to tap into it, right? That mother-daughter dynamic. We kind of talked about this recently as well with what was before
Wednesday.
Harry and Meghan. Yeah, Wednesday. I think it made a lot of sense. And I actually followed her down that rabbit hole of like, does any of this really matter at the end of the day? And it was definitely giving teenage angst, right?
And I think what grabbed me about their relationship too was there were so many layers to it. One was her wanting her mother's acceptance exactly as she is, her sexuality, all of that. Another was generational dynamics between her father, her mother, and now her. And then also, I think she's also internally battling depression. So I feel like there was like layers to their relationship for sure. But how much of that was because of the relationship that Evelyn has cultivated with her throughout her life? I would say a heavy part of it, a heavy part of it.
I also think it's funny that it's Wayman that's in this hurry or has this level of urgency to get his wife to get a hold of their daughter, right? When at the end of the day, if you actually took the time to talk to her, you would realize that she just wanted companionship. She wanted to be understood. And, you know, with her having all that knowledge on a freaking bagel, again, I'm serious. When she was like, oh yeah, all the knowledge of the universe or all things with sesame seed on it as well. It reminded me of that quote, ignorance is bliss, right? Because there is a burden to knowing things.
Oh, absolutely. And I think that is maybe one of the overarching things too that I kind of took from this a little bit. We're so bombarded these days with so much information that it can feel chaotic. The world can feel very chaotic.
Yes.
And that's something I want to kind of talk about as we wrap up. But I do find it fascinating that Jobu was not truly a villain. Despite, because one could say she should be pissed at Evelyn. One could say that she would have been trying to go seek revenge and kill every version of Evelyn because Evelyn is the reason why she's like this. But she was really just trying to get back to her mother, the only other person that she thought maybe could handle this same version of reality that she lives in so that she won't be alone and also can put meaning back into her life. The scene that made me cry was when they finally kind of reconcile, when Joy was like, just leave me alone. I feel like we don't work well together. We're just miserable together. Let's just go our separate ways. And she was like, but wait, no, you only come around when you need something. This, and this.
Where's but I could accountability on both sides?
But I could be anywhere else and I still choose to be here with you. And even throughout this entire multiverse, you still came looking for me. That scene made me cry. That was the moment that I got emotional.
And it's like, yes, our time is finite and it's fleeting, but I would rather spend seconds with you than, not spending time with you at all. Gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous. I also realized that Evelyn and Joy were too similar in some ways, and not in a bad way. In the bad way, in terms of like, nothing matters, right?
Right.
But when you add Wayman to the equation, you find that balance. And I thought that was really beautiful.
I agree, because she mentions in some of the scenes that she had hoped that her daughter was not going to be like her. And then she inevitably has to acknowledge she's just like me. She's messy. She's, the things going on with her in the same way. Because I think, again, it goes back to her relationship with her own father. I think she felt so rejected being who she is. And her father was talking mad shit throughout the film, let's be honest.
Absolutely. Yep.
And so you can see that like generational trauma. And so I do think that she may have punished Joy a little bit because she saw so much of herself in her, to your point. And to reconcile her love for her, she also has to come to terms and reconcile that love within herself, her own self-worth, her own self-love, because a huge theme of this movie is regret and feeling like she's wasted her own life. So that misery is spreading to everyone in your immediate orbit and in your family.
Yes.
Some powerful stuff in this very complicated and silly universe that we created. I want to discuss Jamie Lee Curtis. As I said, Jamie Lee Curtis, in my opinion, acted her ass off in this film as IRS nemesis Deirdre. Her wardrobe even came from an old IRS stock photo.
I believe it.
The detail. She was terrifying to me when she turned into like that multiverse version of herself. Yeah. What were the biggest takeaways for you from her performance?
That she was also a miserable person. You find out that she had gone through a divorce, and it wasn't necessarily a throwaway line, but you find out that she was also targeting minority-owned businesses with the audits, and Evelyn felt targeted. You know what I mean? Like, there was already a level of defense going in, talking to her face to face, and let alone not factoring, the language barrier and things like that when it came to the taxes. But she just seemed like a person. Jamie Lee Curtis character just seemed like the type of person that probably could have used a friend, but she surprised me by allowing them to go home that day to get what they needed. To me, that was a light that just cracked through, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. the initial introduction of her character.
I feel like that love, that crack must have come from that absurd hot dog fingers universe where she and Evelyn were actually in a relationship. That was the freakiest, I did wildest.
Not enjoy that.
And the fact that it came from back supposedly during evolution, when a monkey with hot dog fingers beat a monkey with regular hands in like a fight. And so then everybody became hot dog fingered and therefore learned to be very good with their feet. That was one of the most absurd decisions that they made. But it was funny, especially because of the 180 between Evelyn and Deirdre's character. So I kept thinking, is this supposed to show that given the vastness of the universe and the multiverse, even your enemies in certain ways, you have that connection to, and they may be your friend in some other iteration, or your lover in their case. So maybe that was that silver lining of love that kind of bled through. But I agree with you. She was definitely miserable and definitely took her awards very, very seriously. And so I almost wondered, does she even see y'all as human when y'all come in here? Because this is really all she has. And she wants to keep getting these little butt plug awards at work.
The table full of those receipts gave me great anxiety. I'm like, y'all need a better organizing system here because this ain't it.
For sure. This film, as we've talked about so much, is so bizarre and fantastical, both visually and in terms of the story. What elements would you say you enjoyed the most about the film?
That's a great question. What did I enjoy the most? I really enjoyed being sucked into the different worlds. That scene where it was literally all of her faces in the thousands of universe was quite something. And so I guess with that, I would say the costuming and the makeup was quite fascinating. We also mentioned Joy, her character, the way they're able to switch it up so quickly. Fascinating. The fighting scenes were a lot of fun. I did not enjoy the pinky fighting necessarily, but I did enjoy that aspect. What I did not enjoy were the weird things they had to do as launching pads to tap into their verse hopping. That really, there were moments where I was like, why? Why?
That's actually one of my favorite things.
When she
I
wiped her
loved
dad's
it.
runny nose and put it in his mouth, I was like, Lord, take the wheel.
It
Take
was the
wheel.
awards up the butts for me. When that big security guard came and flew dick out in the air and landed on that, I said his asshole would be shattered, first of all. I don't know. I don't think anything is worth this, but that was so outrageous and absurd when it was hanging out of his butt and then the other dude had stuck another one up his butt. I was like, see, y'all are playing too much. I'm supposed to be taking this seriously. I'm supposed to really feel like there's a threat, but I cannot take this seriously right now.
It's a no for me. It's a no for me.
The paper cuts, though, ooh, I cringed through that scene where Wayman had to give himself the paper cuts. I couldn't handle that one.
Well, it's the biting of the lip balm. I was like, really? I was like, is this some Bond type stuff where it's actually bubble gum and you're gonna use it for whatever? I don't know. I was waiting. In this movie, anything could happen, right? And it did. And it did.
Anything absolutely can happen. You know what? I think my least favorite thing about this film is I would have just loved to see one seamless string of the actual events of the film that were not attached to the multiverse side of things. Because one thing that they said that this film is depicting is that Evelyn essentially has undiagnosed ADHD. So a lot of the things that are going on are because her mind is wandering in all these different directions, right? Well, if that's the case, just give me one. I don't care if it was like an end credit scene. Give me one thing that shows me exactly what actually happened. That's all I really wanted, is just to know what really went down.
It kind of reminds me of the Glass Onion recap too, right? Where it's like you have a sequence of events and then you get a revelation and then you get to see
it
all
alternate
folded
of that
together. Yeah, I get that.
Yeah, that's the one thing I would have really enjoyed. As a Marvel lover, how did this depiction of the multiverse stack up for you?
I literally put in my notes, the multiverse of madness, for sure. That's a great question. I feel like I have a better hold of the Marvel universe than I do this one.
Because it's so wrapped up in so many versions right now. We had the Spider-Man multiverse version. We had the Doctor Strange multiverse version.
Loki.
We had, I forgot about Loki. Yeah.
And we have Ant-Man coming up because, Loki introduced us to Kang, who's going to be doing some crazy stuff with Ant-Man coming up this year. So
the only thing I guess I would say that really felt different to me was that it feels like with this, because you can tap into the other multiverses and you can like take over their minds, that would have been a cool, interesting twist for Marvel, especially when it came to like different versions of like Spider-Man, for instance. What if the Peter Parker of Tobey Maguire's character can hop into the Andrew Garfield version and control or manipulate? Like, how would that play out? That would have been fascinating to see in the Marvel universe, actually.
It actually makes me wonder, which one would you prefer, to be able to physically see yourself, or, to your point, live in its consciousness. I don't know.
I feel like this. I feel like in this one, you're so much more attached. In that one, you're literally it's separate, right? Like it's not really you. It's a totally different person. So I don't know. And this is like you're getting to see what life could be like for you in all these different ways. So it's still always kind of coming back to center to like your consciousness in a way. So it's different. But again, that manipulation aspect would have been dope. Like, let's see if we can do that at some point in time. That would be crazy. Per the directors, Jackie Chan was originally who they conceived to star in this film. Yes. Do you foresee the movie having had the same resonance if it had been Jackie Chan instead of Michelle Yeoh? And this would have been patriarchal versus matriarchal.
I would say no. I feel like the relationship with the parent and child would have been different. And frankly, with the spouse, right? Like, how often do we see men depicted in films with this level of vulnerability and openness and sweetness, right? It's not that common, especially because Evelyn, she was rough. She was nothing to be played with. You know what I mean?
I also feel like you had so much more depth in the relationships as a result of kind of how it's structured that you might have had with a dad kind of leading the charge in that way.
Is that because women tend to be the glue of their family?
One could say that, but maybe also because I've heard from people through things I've read and watched who were able to take so many different things to relate to it that I don't think would have been relatable had it been the reverse and had a man starring. Like one woman said that she felt like this film was a woman going through menopause. And that is a line probably that the directors who are the screenwriters never envisioned that someone would feel, but because it's based around Michelle Yeoh and all of that, it gave them that feeling. You also had a lady who said that she felt like she could relate so much to Joy's character and the depression she was going through and that familiar relationship she had with Evelyn. Again, how much would that relationship have changed if it was her dad and her?
Well, that and her being a woman of a certain age, quote unquote, marrying and following a man and his dreams and not living up to her own potential is something that happens in real life quite often. And so the women are left wondering, what could I have been? I could have been a singer. I could have, list all the hobbies and things that they put on the business that they probably shouldn't have put on, the hobbies that she was exploring.
Director Daniel Kwan, in an NPR interview via their pod Shortwave, mentioned that he felt the film was a good metaphor for what it feels like to be alive right now. I kind of mentioned this a little bit earlier. He said, to exist in an infinite number of different stories and narratives colliding constantly and contradictions and emotional whiplash. How relatable was this for you in terms of your experience watching, and what themes resonated most with you?
I can't say that I can relate to like the chaos of our media or anything along those lines. I understand where he's coming from, but it doesn't really necessarily resonate with me in that way. The themes that seem to stick out to me, we've touched upon the mother-daughter relationship, the owning your own happiness, right? Like if you do not like your current situation, you actually have the power to change it. Now, it requires habit changing and prayer, but it's possible. And just stop letting life happen to you. You happen to life, because I feel like she definitely got into that particular rut. And to know, just even to have a glimpse of something outside of her really reinvigorated Evelyn. So yeah, how about you?
I definitely, when I heard Daniel Kwan's thoughts about the chaos, I definitely felt that. I was like, with social media, with all the possibilities of things going on in the world every day, mass shootings, global warming, disaster after disaster. Sometimes life has felt very overwhelming, right? Life has felt very bleak sometimes. And so this idea of constantly being pulled in different directions, especially like mentally and emotionally, I heavily related to. But I also think that one of the overarching things that I really took from it, particularly at the end, was to have gratitude and to be present and to enjoy the moment. Because I think she had, as much as she may have appreciated her family, her daughter, her husband, whatever, I think she had lost sight of all of that and thinking that her life had been wasted. And I think it took the chaos of this film, to your point, for her to remember that her life is good. She does have support. She does have love. She has accomplished things in her life. She had to remember to love and appreciate them and love and appreciate herself.
Yes.
And I think it's sometimes really hard to be present and really hard to be appreciative and show gratitude. And that takes a conscious effort. So
it is a daily practice for a reason. It is
a daily practice. So I think that's one of the biggest things that I took from my experience watching now 3 times of this film. And I really, really enjoyed it. And every time I took something else that I didn't catch the first time, like that whole googly eye reference, I did not catch that my first watch. I didn't even notice the different placements of the googly eyes throughout. Really? And at the end, where there was the 4 sets of googly eyes to represent the 4 members of the family. And I didn't catch that on my first watch. Absolutely not. So it was
fascinating when you go through the rewatch. Like in the opening scene, for example, there's the mirror and the 3 of them. But on that desk is a freaking raccoon. And I'm sure there were other, what do they call it, Ashley?
Easter eggs. Yeah, hidden gem. I was going to say hidden gems, but specifically to the twirling of the sign. There was somebody twirling the sign when they were on their way to the IRS building. Yes. They definitely sprinkled. But the raccoon
unserious. Ridiculous.
That was
my
hilarious.
boy too. I love him. That actor, I love him. First met him watching Glee.
And that's a reunion for Crazy Rich Asians because he's supposed to be prominent in the second film.
He is. So, and I'm waiting for it. Where is it? I need him. And that's the thing that I actually forgot. I was like, oh, they use real footage of her on the red carpet. And I love that. And it really took me watching that to be like, oh, she was the mean mom in Crazy Rich Asians. And she's such a great actress because you don't even think about it. You know, her playing Evelyn now. Well, she plays stuck up very well. And she's gorgeous, of course. But
you will never be enough. Woo-wee. Lord Jesus. She acted her ass off in that movie for sure.
Sure did.
All right, Delora, any final closing thoughts on your Everything Everywhere All at Once experience?
There were just moments throughout this entire film where I was like, oh, we're going there. Got it. You know, like, and when we got to the point where there were rocks in subtitles, I was like, huh, like
I'm not gonna lie, that did seem peaceful. I was like, with everything going on, it was very peaceful to have a moment where y'all were just rocks and y'all could just sit here and just chit chat, because this would be a lot. If you had all of that going on in your mind at all times, just let me be a rock too. I don't need it. That was a nice moment.
But I really appreciated at the core of this crazy story is the story about family and love, and highlighting that a relationship is a two-way street, whether your relationship with the spouse or with your child, the relationship with yourself, and every moment matters and it's precious. And it's always important to remember that.
Very well said, Delora. We will wrap with that, guys. That was our recap and discussion on Oscar nominated multiverse sci-fi hit. Everything, everywhere, all at once. We hope you guys enjoyed. Again, if you have not gotten a chance to check out the film, definitely check it out for yourself and come back to us and let us know what you thought. All right, Delora, let's talk hidden gems. What you got for the people?
Thank you, Ashley. All right, so I have 2 hidden gems this week. So the first is a novel. This was one of my favorites from last year when I consumed 100 books. It's called Daisy Jones and the Six, written by Tyler Jenkins Reid. It came out originally March 2019. And if you are a fan of what they call it, book talk or talk book or Insta books, this is one that always shows up. And as a fan of audiobooks, this was by far one of the best audiobook experiences I've had. It follows the rise and fall of this rock band from the 70s. And of course, there's drugs, sex, and rock and roll. And the reason why I'm making this my hidden gem this week is because the series is coming. It is coming to Amazon Prime. This mini series is coming in March this year. So if you want to know about the story before the series come out, and of course it's an adaptation, so it probably won't be word for word, but man, it was a journey. Go ahead and check out this book, Daisy Jones and the Six. Oh, and the reason why this was such a joy to listen to for audiobooks, each band member had their own voice. So it had a cast of so many voice actors. Like usually when it comes to audiobooks, you literally get 1 to 2 people max, right? You got the POV from minimum 7 people. And then all the cast and characters on the rise and fall of this particular band. So a lot of fun. My second hidden gem isn't quite hidden, but I need to specifically call out Abbott Elementary Season 2, Episode 13, The Fundraiser. This has to be the funniest episode ever. I cackle often with Abbott Elementary. But the plot thickens, spoiler alert, when Jacob confronts Gregory on liking Janine. And that scene alone, perfection. Did you see the episode, Ashley?
I don't think I'm caught up on the last episode just yet, but I'm going to be watching it for sure.
And just Ava was spitfiring jokes. There were moments in this episode where I couldn't even catch up because the jokes were just coming left and right. And it was a joy. So Abbott Elementary, please continue to watch. And they deserve all the love they're getting. I pray that they keep getting the love that they're getting, just like Modern Family had all those years. You know what I mean? It does not need to stop with season 1.
Exactly.
So that's what I have this week, Ashley. How about you?
All right. I have 3 hidden gems. My first one is a podcast. And then we had sex. This husband and wife duo, Kristen Civils and J-Rod Tanner, are hilarious. They drop weekly episodes chatting about their lives, sex, as implied by the title, and adding in a lot of comedy. You may have caught some of their clips. They have clips all the time on Instagram that are hilarious, but I actually had the pleasure of seeing them at a live show while I was in Miami.
Ooh.
My anxiety would not let me be great and join them on stage for any of the games that they played, but it was a fun experience nonetheless. Be sure to check them out on social and all the podcasting platforms. My second hidden gem, Mi Italia Kitchen and Bar. This is an Italian spot that we went to for my friend's birthday celebration, again in Miami. I had the truffle crusted steak, potatoes, and asparagus, and it was incredible. First time in my life a restaurant has cut up my steak for me. Okay,
Really?
they were ready. They were ready. Great service, ambiance, and food. The trifecta. Highly recommend.
Okay.
Third and final, Bling Empire New York, baby. Spin-off from the original
on my list.
Bling Empire series that is based in LA. This is with Dorothy as the lead as she moves to, of course, the Big Apple. Now, I'm not gonna lie to y'all. It took me a minute to adjust to this new cast because we 3 seasons. Yeah, 3 seasons in with the original. So it'll take me a little minute to get used to all these new people. But standouts for me are definitely Tina and also Blake. There's just a real authenticity for some of these characters that I enjoyed this season. And also a little less coddling with the rich families for some of the stars of this season as well.
Coddling.
So I feel like the LA cast, they're comfortable. You don't ever really see them go through financial issues or hardship.
Right.
There's threats of kids getting cut off in this series. There's kids who are taking care of themselves who already got cut off in this series. So less coddling, more real-ish going on that they have to take care of for themselves. So
interesting. So on a scale of 1 to 10, how pissed off is Morgan Stewart right now?
I hope she's not pissed. I feel like Dorothy from Rich Kids of Beverly Hills, Dorothy was Morgan's sidekick. Dorothy deserved better. So I'm glad
I agree
that Dorothy is getting her own opportunity to shine and to do it with her people, because she seems like she really loves some of these people. Like Tina, her and Tina are BFFs. Like you can feel it and it's genuine.
It's not fake. Okay.
It's genuine and I love it. So I feel like season 1 is definitely worth a watch, guys. Those are my 3 hidden gems, Delora. We'll see what next week has for us, but in the meantime, guys, as usual, we so appreciate y'all sticking with us. So, we about to be entering Black History Month. We about to have some content on the horizon, some good stuff coming. So continue to stick with us. Please share this podcast with your friends and loved ones and coworkers and all the good stuff so we can keep this train and party going.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
We'll see y'all for our next Quick Headlines and Hot Topics episode. In the meantime, be blessed.
Bye.